The views, statements, and opinions expressed on the Coming Home podcast do not represent Fairleigh Dickinson University, its views, or affiliates. The content of these episodes are solely focused on the stories, memories, and journeys of FDU alumni. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of FDU Coming Home. I'm Michael Canetti, and unfortunately, Mike Ramos can't be here today, but we have an amazing guest. We have Anthony Masi here. How you doing, Anthony?
I'm good. I'm always having fun because I get to do horror stuff every day, which is my thing. So
That is so cool. Do you prefer Anthony or Tony?
can I explain that?
Sure, go ahead. Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
Because Mark always calls you Tony, but everything's
right.
Anthony.
We have a mutual friend, Mark Sapara, and he was my roommate at FDU, and he called me Tony like everybody did. But when I moved out to LA, I became an Anthony because I was signing my email signatures as Anthony Masi.
Mhm.
And people started calling me Anthony. So it's weird when I'm in a group of people that it depends on how long you've known me. So like people that I've met just now, those people hearing someone go, "Hey, Tony," they're like, "Why, Tony?" Like, you know what I mean? It seems like it's a completely wrong thing. And so I always say, call me what you want. But most people in LA call me Anthony. Most people on the East Coast call me Tony. So
That's so funny because, like, I would say before I turned, let's say, before my 30s, I was Mike to everybody, and then I became Michael once I
right,
became a dad, and
right.
now, like, depending on when you knew me in life, it's either Mike or Michael, or
Yeah.
my students just call me by my last name, just call me Canetti all the time. Like, all right, whatever, that's easy, that's fine too. So I'm fascinated by this because I was just looking at your IMDb page, and you've got quite a lot of credits to your name, which is pretty incredible. And you just worked on the Silent Night, Deadly Night
Yes,
movie. That's
it's
pretty
the
cool.
poster here, which is backwards. I can't mirror my camera for some weird reason.
That's okay.
Yeah, I
That's so
did.
cool.
I love. Have you ever seen the original Silent Night, Deadly
I
Night?
have not, no, but I knew about this movie, and I loved it, so it's cool.
Thank you. Silent Night, Deadly Night is a cult classic, and it was a 1984 film that got banned from theaters because parents and advocacy groups, they're all very upset about the idea of Santa running around killing people, and they were showing trailers for that movie like during soap operas and stuff. And so
Yes.
a lot of like women especially got very upset because, and they had a very strong argument because we all know it's a horror movie and it's Santa running around with an axe killing people, but kids think it's Santa.
Right.
So there was a real issue there, and it lasted 10 days and got pulled, but he has a huge cult following. And so I know the licensors of that property, and I was able to connect with them during COVID, and a very unlikely kind of connection. And then I was able to help them get it made. And so for a guy like me who like loved horror movies and had t-shirts like, you know, like this back when I was rooming with, you know, Mark Sapara and all of that, for a guy like me to remake Silent Night, Deadly Night is one of the highlights of my career. So yeah, it's was very exciting to see my name on like the big screen like that. Just being honest, it was like, oh, I haven't, you know, I've done a lot of producing, but not really like movies like that. So anyway, very exciting.
That's pretty incredible. Now, let me ask you, we'll go back to FDU for a minute there. So did you study film at FDU?
No.
Really?
No, I didn't. I was an English writing major, and that's what I did. And I went to college not under duress, but like I would rather had not done that.
Okay.
So that, because anyone who knows me when I was like in high school and in college, it's like I was going to be a magician, and it's like it's ask Mark, like that was my thing. What are you going to do after you graduate? I'm like, I'm going to go do magic and perform everywhere, because that was the love of like my life. I loved magic ever since I was a little kid. And so I did magic throughout 4 years at FDU and all the talent shows and the theater club, and I was just magic. And so I had no interest in doing anything else. And then I graduated and I did that for a while. And then I got bored with it. I was like, oh my God, I was in the middle of a show on stage at a college. I did college shows.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I think I'm done with this. Like the fire wasn't there. So it was a big fundamental shift in what I wanted to do. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. And then ultimately figured out that I should be in LA. And then I found producing. That's what I found I was really good at. And by the way, I still do magic. I am a member and performer at the Magic Castle.
Oh, that's
But
cool.
it's like 5% of what I do. So the rest of it is producing.
It's do it when you want to do it, not because you have to do it, kind of thing.
Exactly right. When you do something as a business, like if you want to own a bakery, but now you own a bakery. Now you have to make the donuts and make the croissants and all that. And how fun is that? So
Right.
when you make something that you love your vocation, it does change in a way. So like
100%.
also being a magic fan, I know how the secrets are. Like you have to figure it all out so that you can like then do your own thing with it. And so it's disappointing. There's disappointments, but overall it's the best thing you ever do because you get to do what you love.
Right.
How many people get to do that in life? So
That's true. I meet a lot of people that say that they ended up never doing what they love to do or whatnot, which is I find that so interesting. So
yeah,
let's go back now. Did you grow up in New Jersey? Did you where you from originally?
I grew up in Connecticut. I went
Okay.
to all my school through high school in West Hartford, Connecticut, and then I went to college at FDU.
How did you find FDU from Connecticut?
My God, I don't even remember. I got rejected from Drew. Let's put it that way. I would have gone to
I
either
did
one.
too. I did too.
I know my dad lived in New Jersey in Morristown, so that was probably a strong reason. My dad was like, if you can come live with me and whatever. That's absolutely the reason now that I think about it. Yeah.
So you graduate FDU, you do magic for a little while. When did you say to yourself, I'm going to move to LA and see what happens here? How does that
Well, I
come to be?
graduated, what was it, 91?
Oh, wow.
So, and I moved, and literally,
You look younger than me. What the heck?
you got to try to do something in LA to like,
I guess so.
um, so yeah, it took me 8 years to move to LA in 99. So, I mean, I didn't like flounder, like I was performing, but I just was like, I don't think I found what I want to do yet.
Okay.
The magic was like more like a little boy's dream. You know what I mean? Like I was
totally
captivated by like Doug Henning and David Copperfield. David Copperfield was like my everything. And I just found out David is closing his Vegas show. He's been there for 25 years.
Really?
And I used to just drive up because I'm in Los Angeles. It's a 4-hour drive to Vegas. So I realized one day I could just hop in my car and go check out Copperfield's show tonight. And I would do that, which was
That's what.
if you've never seen the show, it's an amazing, a UFO appears. Like it's crazy. It's crazy.
I remember him making the Statue of Liberty disappear.
Right. Like as a kid, that was mind blowing to me. And like, I'm like, I don't want to go to school. Like, why would I do that? But, college taught me a lot of other things besides like anthropology and, all that. It taught me, because I was very shy and introverted. And so the idea of me on a stage was like, little Tony is like the shy Tony, so college actually helped me sort of get out of my shell. And Mark was a big part of that. Mark's very outgoing, jovial,
Yes.
courageously, like personality wise, he's very courageous. He's friends with everybody. I was in Massachusetts with him once, walking down the street, and somebody knew him. I was like, how do you know everybody?
This is the thing that I say to him all the time. Like, how do you go anywhere and everyone knows you? You just know somebody. You could be like in the middle of a Whole Foods in Nowheresville and be like, oh, hey, Mark. I'm like, how do you know this guy?
Exactly. It was mind boggling. Like everywhere we went, he's like, Teresa, how are you? John, like I was like, how is this possible? And this was before the internet. So I just, I looked up to him so much, and there was a mutual respect there, but he really helped me sort of like not be so afraid of everything.
It also sounds like, the magic, almost the pun of like the magic in you, like helped give you a different side of your personality that helped drive that sort of personality out and get over that fear of people as well. It sounds like.
Yeah, well, magic did two things. It gave me a sense of control, because when you're doing magic and other people can't, in your head, like especially as a young kid, you're like, look how powerful I am. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you can't do that. You know, there was that kind of thing. And also it forced me to interact with people.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a very outgoing twin brother we're very much the same, but very much different. It's weird to say that, but like, he was the one that had all the friends and stuff like that. And so magic just gave me a confidence. And then college, as much as I really didn't really want to go, I found it to be very helpful for my development just as a person and all that. So, but yeah, but it wasn't that, like, if also, I know people, I have friends that are full-time magicians for decades. They travel the world. It's a very exciting life. You wouldn't think so. You're like, magicians? No, they go all over the world. They perform at every country you name it. And I can look at it now. I'm more of a homebody. Like, there's a lot of reasons why I didn't pursue that.
Mm-hmm. No, I get that for sure. And
yeah.
but it's fun. Like, you think of like the LA Hollywood lifestyle, you have to always be on, but like, you seem like you're comfortable just being you and being yourself, and I love that, which is cool.
What I do now is I sit at my desk and I have meetings all the time. I set things, as a producer, you set things up. You're always calling this person and like networking with that person and bringing this project to this person and reading this script. And that's what I found that two things. I love to do it and I'm good at it. And there was a movie years ago called The Flamingo Kid. I don't know if you remember that movie.
I know. I've heard of that movie. Yeah, for sure.
Somebody in that movie is giving advice to Matt Dillon, and he's like, if what you love to do in life is what you're actually good at, then you've got it made, because those two things are married together. And so for a success, like if you want to be a singer and you're not a very good singer, you're not probably won't get very far. And so I realized that I don't need to be on a stage. Producers, there's like so many jokes about what do producers even do? And like, I've produced things where I show up on set and there's nothing for me to do, because all of my work has been done before I get there. Mm-hmm. So like, like there's a joke, like producers don't do anything, but we're the ones that have the vision. We drive the vision. We find the right team to put together. There's a lot of skill in that, about like sensibility and intuition, and like, I need to call this person. They'll help get it through, and there's a lot of that. And the older you get and the more people you get to know, if you have integrity, you survive in this business. And so
it's funny you say that, because I was a film major at FDU and I teach film there now, and I do a lot of independent producing on small films, independent films and whatnot. Very and cool. I always tell everybody that like, the reason why all this stuff is working right now is because all the stuff I did what nobody saw.
Exactly.
it's the most thankless job, and if it doesn't if you don't do your job, nothing else gets done, basically.
You are so right. It is thankless. And Silent Night, Deadly Night, that this movie here, it took my time on it took 5 years, and it was,
you said COVID was when it started, right? So that's
and it was built 3 times. It was built and fell, and then the third time it actually got made. But we had a different director, a different writer, and when you're building it and everyone's all excited and the vision is happening, and then your funding doesn't come through, which is pretty much what happened in a very short 1-sentence summary. And it falls apart. It's terrible, because you're like, how many hundreds of hours of phone calls have I put in? And all these people work so hard. And LA is very much that kind of place where you work your off, hoping that something is going to stick. And if you can't navigate that, it's just not the right career for you. But when it does happen, like when that came out in theaters, it was like, this is why we all do it, because we did it. It's a miracle. Whenever someone, and as you just saying, like creating a short and everything is a mammoth effort. Like there's no reason for anything to exist. Like who cares about a movie you want to make? Who cares about a movie I want to make? You're always like justifying your existence. I mean, you feel so invisible but then you make it, it's a miracle. So when people are
Yeah.
actually sitting there watching it, it's like, wow, this thing didn't exist but for me and the team of people that are on it. We're all working like crazy. That's what I love about it, because I have a lot of friends that money isn't their motivator. If I think in this business, like I know people that are motivated by money, but artists, like independent film, like I've never worked for a studio. I've worked with the studios. Um, but studios are business
Yeah.
and independent filmmakers are artists. So
Yeah.
there's a real big difference there. You have to really want to do this kind of line of work.
It's funny. So I always tell my students, if you want to get into this industry, you got to have a couple things. One, be willing to work 70 hours a week or more. Two, be okay with failure and rejection.
Hmm.
And three, be okay with sometimes making the movie that you thought you made. And I'm sorry, reverse that. How do I say that? Not always getting to make the movie you thought you made and making something else entirely.
Yes, I'm working with a rights holder now for an old 81 horror movie called Mad Men. It was on TV a lot. It's a classic, cult classic, like My Bloody Valentine and Basket Case and Happy Birthday to Me and all these movies that were huge during the slasher boom in the 80s, but just had like one movie and not a franchise. And he said the movie you come out with is not the movie you go in with, because
Yeah.
everything changes. Yeah, I've seen. There's so much to talk about that just in itself, but you have to be
Honestly,
willing to change things.
you would be great to teach to speak to our senior thesis students about like the process of what, because so many of them are in post production right now and they are realizing that the movie that they wrote isn't what they're actually editing now, because what failed during production or what they didn't have, like they don't have money to make Lord of the Rings here. So
Right, exactly.
so what are they making? And I try to help them and understand that like it's okay that what
Yeah.
you envisioned isn't going to be the same as it turns out to be, as long as you can tell a cohesive story that people will want to watch. Basically, that's basically it.
Well, the
So
biggest filmmaking lesson that I learned, well, I learned two major. I loved your list. Um, I think I might add two things. One, be careful who you work with. That's a
mhm,
big deal because it's all personality driven. So and the second one is filmmaking is collaborative. So the moment you take your script, if you've written it or whatever, and bring it to a director, um, like even a composer, you can't tell a composer how to score a movie. It's all like
yeah,
it's not tangible. So all you can do is like talk about, well, here's what I want it to be, but like the more people that hop on board, of course it's going to change. So it's sometimes there's 50 people on even on an independent movie. You can't control every aspect of it. You just
you
can't.
have to be willing to let go of some of the things that you thought would be the thing and be okay with letting somebody else who's maybe better at that thing
Exactly,
do
and
it for you.
trust.
Yeah,
It's like, why did you bring on, like for me, I'll bring on a composer on something. I'm bringing them on because as a producer, they're the right composer for the job. I love them. I believe I'm not bringing people on, like I wouldn't bring in a director and then tell them how to direct it, direct something. Like, and that's a lesson people still don't learn.
yeah.
It's collaborative. You bring together the best people you can and leverage their talent that they want to do. Editing is a huge thing.
No, and I teach editing at FDU, so I'm
Oh,
the editing
cool.
professor, and I openly admit, like, I am a really, really good editor. I'm not the best colorist, and I'm not the
Yep.
best audio mixer or radio. Like, I'm not the best at that. I can do it, but I would rather have somebody that's if they're a better colorist, here, take my movie and make it look the way it's supposed to look, because I'm not going to do it perfect, because I'm just not that patient.
Right. Yeah, you might think you're a great colorist, like the instant experts are everywhere.
Mhm.
It's like I can color, I'm a pretty good editor myself. I edited a whole documentary I did called The 50 Best Horror Movies You've Never Seen.
I see that on your IMDb. I'm looking at her.
Well, I edited that. I just very quick, like producing kind of story is I always had this idea of like putting together, like, I don't really like reviews. Like, I don't want to hear negative reviews. Like, just tell me the positive things about something. There's a whole philosophical discussion I won't get into there. But I always had this idea to be like, you know what, let's take 50 lesser known movies, throw them in a countdown list. I could sell that. And so what I did was I was doing other documentaries, and I would just ask the person sitting in the chair, hey, I'm doing this other countdown list. Do you, I hand them the list of my 50 movies. And I said, do you know any of these movies? Can you just say a bite or two about each one? And that's how that movie got made, because people were doing interviews for other documentaries. And then I started finding people just for that. But it was like, you know, so over time I was editing by myself this other countdown list. It's 2.5 hours long because it's 50 movies. But that was my film editing score. I didn't score it, but I bought like rights free music, royalty free music. But I edited it all. I directed it. So that was my one thing that I did everything on. The logo, the everything. And so, but I was like, I am never doing that again. It's a lot of work.
It's a lot. I am, I guess I would say, a collector of things, as you can tell. Yeah. So I also have a ton of film equipment. I have tons of lights and audio equipment. I have a couple of different cameras and tripods and whatever. Because I'm always the guy that like, hey, you want to make a movie? Call me. I have everything we need. All we need to do is a location and get some actors, and we can go out and shoot it. And that's kind of how my philosophy is. I want to be able to bring all my stuff here. We set it all up. We rock and roll and make a cool little independent film or short movies or whatever we can do. That's cool. That's all. So now, we'll get back. I could talk for hours, but we're gonna go try to get this back to the FDU of it all.
Okay.
Was there any like faculty or mentors that really inspired you, or like really helped mold who you are today, kind of thing?
Harvey Flaxman.
Same.
He was a tornado. I will never forget Harvey. And I was a freshman. I was in his public speaking class, which is where I met Mark. We sat next to each other, and Mark, I admired him. Mark was like, he was instant friends with everybody in the class. And I was sitting in the back, shy. I would choose to sit in the back, and Harvey would call me out during class, and he would say, Tony, you're always so quiet. You know, this is a public speaking class. Like, he would like come down on me, and in my mind I'd be like, why are you picking on me? Like, stop it, you know, whatever. And then I started, I was drawn to theater. I was in the plays. I joined the theater club, and Harvey was like always, you know, mulling around
everywhere.
Yeah. Right. And one day he pulled me into his office, closed the door. Now, I don't know if he did this to everyone, but he said, sit down. And I sat down, and he goes, there's something special about you. And I said, really? And he's like, I sense in you there's something special that you're going to offer the world creatively. And he was like, I'm telling you this because someone needs to tell that to you. Wow. And I don't know why.
That's a big compliment from him. That's a big compliment from him.
It was, but I was so confused by it, because I was like, I don't want to paint this picture like I was this timid little, you know, wallflower, but at the same time, I just didn't understand what he was saying. And then I took his screenwriting class. He had a screenplay class, and I started writing this story, and he loved the concept for this movie. And said, you need to take this out. He's like, I was a producer. He goes, I did Grizzly, damn it. I know that, you know, and I'm like, oh my God, I love his Grizzly story. And I still tell it to my friends out here. I was like, my college professor, I don't think he didn't direct it, but he wrote and produced it. I think
he wrote and produced it. Yeah.
And and he said, you know, he was like, I was the it guy in Hollywood for about, you know, 15 minutes. And they brought him Rocky, and in the class, did you hear him tell this story? He's like,
no, I haven't heard this story.
He goes, I was sent Rocky, you know, and he goes, and I picked it up, and he goes, I loved Harvey. He goes, who the hell wants to watch a movie about a boxer? And he threw it in the trash. He was like, biggest mistake I ever made. Like, he was like very honest about that.
Wow, that's crazy.
But Harvey was definitely someone I admired and felt a connection with. He made me feel seen and encouraged me and recognized something. And we kept in touch for a little while. I had written a script called Chameleon, which was, do you remember the old Project Greenlight show?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah.
So I think it was the third season, maybe the second season. I submitted this. It's a thriller. It's a horror thriller. It's a stalker movie, and it made the top 100 in Project Greenlight, which was huge for me because I was like,
That's
that was
wild.
my thing. I was like, oh, I'm in LA now. I moved to LA. I'm like, I'm going to be a screenwriter. That's what I'm going to do because I took screenwriting in college, and I could make millions as a writer. And that quickly, the script didn't make it onto the show. It made the top 100 and got really great reviews and everything. But I remember sending it to Harvey. And he read it and he said, I love this. He goes, do you want my honest comments? I'm like, that's why I sent it to you. And he sent me some honest commentary. I remember getting an email from him that was very detailed, and he read it. You can tell when someone hasn't read your script.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
And so we kept in touch, but then, like everybody, you kind of lose touch. And then I heard about his passing. Was it last year or
About a year ago? Yeah, a little over a year ago. Yeah.
And I felt it. I was so sad because I pictured him, and like he just was. Yeah, you asked me who the main person was. Definitely him. Definitely him. I remember William Zander. Do you remember William Zander?
I don't. I know the name, but I never met the person. No, I never.
He was an impressionable guy. But yeah, I really just look back on my college years as like the place that I was able to sort of come out of my shell, find my creative side, and make some wonderful friends. And that's what I remember. I was not a great student. I was a good student, but more like a B student. It just wasn't like, like I loved going to class. I loved meeting friends and stuff, but I was like always in my mind thinking like, should I be somewhere else? Like one thing that was going to happen was I was offered a job on Royal Caribbean cruise ship 6 months before I graduated. And they're like, you're going to travel, you're going to perform on this ship and everything. To me, that was like, are you kidding me? This is like this is what I've been waiting for my whole life. And my father had to say to me, if you don't graduate, you're going to regret it. He's like, it's only 6 more months. Don't take the job. And he was totally right. He was totally right, because I have magician friends that do cruise ships. So like, it's a nightmare. It's terrible. It's awful, and I am glad I stuck it out and graduated. So
that's cool. So you move out to Hollywood about 8 years after you graduate. What happens in your first couple of years out in LA and everything?
It was not a great. It was a great time because I moved, like moving across countries, was from LA to San Diego was like, I moved to San Diego first because my twin brother lived here, and I thought, well, I just want to get away from the East Coast.
Right.
So he was the only person I knew. I did everything. I was a membership recruiter for a gym, LA Fitness, was it? Didn't work out. I'm going to tell you, I was a telephone psychic. I'm not kidding you.
No. Miss Cleo?
That kind of shit for a day. It was a day, because by the end of that day, I realized I was lying to people. And I could not handle that. I could not handle. I could read tarot cards. I did tarot card readings for FDU. They would hire me for their Halloween events, and they would bring me in, and I would sit there. I loved reading tarot cards and everything, and I was like, "What am I doing?" I had a bunch of jobs, but then I started doing magic again, and I started doing restaurant magic. And I thought, I can't do roving restaurant magic for the rest of my life. So that's when something very magical and career shifting changed for me. So I'm a big Halloween franchise fan. Okay. And so I loved all the Halloween movies. Everyone in college knew it was like Halloween, and so what I did was I started organizing a Halloween themed convention, much like the Star Trek conventions and themed event just for one thing, where all the actors, producers, writers, and crew people and all that, and the fans come together. Wow. And I thought, how hard could that be? Well, it was a nightmare, but it was the best thing I ever did. I got hired by the Halloween producers. So it's called Trancas International, and they own all the rights to the Halloween movies. And I ran their website for 7 years. I did this huge convention. And that we filmed the convention. That's what we did. We filmed all the panel discussions and we filmed everything. There was a bus tour of the filming locations for the first Halloween movie in Pasadena. This had never been done before, and it turned into this like huge thing. And now I had footage, and that's when we made my first documentary. I have it. I put it here to keep. So 25 Years of Terror, if you can read it backwards.
Yeah. No,
This
it's right. It's right side. I'm looking at me.
Right. So we cut a documentary, and it was Anchor Bay Entertainment. I don't know if you remember them. They're an old, like, they're defunct now, but they were like the huge horror distributor. So they, that became one of their best sellers. And so I produced that documentary. So it made me a producer. And I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know there was a color correction step. You mentioned color. I didn't know there was a color correction step. But that was my school to become a producer, and all the clearances, clip clearances, actor clearances, all of the things that nobody thinks about what us producers do.
Yeah.
It was crazy. It was crazy. It took 3 years to make.
Wow. Are you in the Producers Guild now? Are you in the guild?
No, I never joined. I could. It's not like the other guilds, like the Writers Guild and the Directors Guild. There isn't it's not like that. It's more of like a club. And I really have been on the fence about it for years. I have enough credits to join, but a lot of my friends
I can see that. You have plenty of credits.
I don't know. I just don't feel. I've always been a very like Masi Media. My company is just me. Whenever I do a project, like I'm doing a documentary now on Wes Craven's life, and I interviewed Wes Craven in this room for my Scream documentary, and he died 12 years ago.
Yeah. Wow. Is that long ago that? Wow.
I know. Can you believe 2014? I can't believe, but he was so influential, and there isn't a documentary on him. And that's my thing. I've primarily made documentaries for the bulk of what I do. But I've chosen the team very carefully. There's a guy that worked with Wes for 10 years, thousands of photos and footage and everything no one's ever seen that he took himself. And so, I get to pick the team that I want and keep it very small. And so I'll fund a project to a certain point. All my documentaries have sold. And so I know that if I fund it to a certain point, we can then get distribution for it. And so, for example of that, Paramount Studios, we did a documentary on the success of the Paranormal Activity movies. Mm-hmm. That little $15,000 movie that Oren Peli directed made $197 million at the box office. It's a home movie. And, so Paramount embracing the home movie style was the story to tell. And then it went on to make 6 more movies.
Yeah.
And so that was the story. It wasn't, and then this happened in this movie, and the story was how this filmmaker spent $15,000 and created $1 billion franchise for a major studio. I got to pick the producer, the director. I like that. So I was funding it to a certain point, and then we had a meeting at Paramount, and they said, we want it. We will, and they funded it. And so I've learned how to move forward with a project. For the most part, there are some very big challenges with stuff like that. But
now when you have like archival footage that's shot 16 millimeter or tape or whatever, how do you digitally upconvert that now to 4K to match with like interview footage, maybe shooting present day kind of thing?
Well, that's actually very easy now. There's a lot of
I use Topaz AI, which just throw it in there and just
Yeah, it's easy. Like when I did my first documentary, the Halloween documentary, we were shooting interviews on mini DV tapes. There was a little DV tape.
Yep.
And there was piles of them. And then when we were like onlining everything and then doing exports, you needed it was a huge cumbersome project. When you do interviews and you want to pull a bite from an interviewee to put in your documentary, back when we did 24 Years of Terror in the early 2000s, we had to transcribe all of the interviews. And I remember going to Starbucks. I would listen on headphones to the little mini DV tape and type. And our whole team was doing this because we had 85 interviewees. And then I remember printing them out in a stack like this and going to Starbucks, and I brought these highlighters with me. Everyone who mentioned something about Halloween got like an orange highlight. Halloween 2 was like green, Halloween 3 was blue. And so and that's how we did it then. Today, and I've seen every format and iteration of transcribing and up-resing and all of that. Today, there are so many digital tools that transcribe automatically, fix your footage. So it's a lot easier now to do that.
I can open up Adobe Premiere or DaVinci and just type in the word Halloween, and every clip that says the word Halloween, and it will just pop up in a list. And I'm like, oh, there they all are. Grab them. It's
amazing. Yes, right. It just gets easier and easier. But that also,
they don't know how easy they got it, these kids today.
They don't. Oh my God. I actually was like 35 millimeter. What the hell? Like that seems like a dinosaur. I actually co-produced a movie that was shot on 35. And I said to the director, who's a good friend of mine, I'm like, why are you doing this? Like, well, it turned out he was the first person, we've been researching for a year, the first person to shoot it on 35 and then digitize it. I think his name's Mike Nichols. He's not the Mike Nichols, but Mike Nichols. But I remember back then going like, you don't have to do that. My God, use your Sony, EOS 5D or whatever. Like use that. And so yeah, but things have become a lot easier now. The problem with that is everybody's a filmmaker now. So
I know. It's harder. I find it harder now for good work to be discovered because there's so much content now, because you could make it with this thing now, and it's like
when we interviewed, so Oren Peli wrote and directed the original Paranormal Activity, and we asked him, what would you say to filmmakers? And he did what you did. He pulled out his phone. He's like, film a movie on your phone. He's like, you can do it now, 4K movies, and so if everyone has like a camera in their pocket and you are a filmmaker, you have no excuse to not be filming something. So
I tell my students all the time, I'm like, in the summer when you've got nothing to do, take your phones and a couple of microphones you could buy on Amazon for $150 and shoot a 5-minute movie every weekend and just put it on YouTube. It's just to keep that muscle memory and get better at it, get better at editing and better at shooting and all the things. And there's so many more opportunities now than even when I had in the early 2000s in film school, shooting on mini DV tape. I have a box of 40 mini DV tapes in my closet for my thesis film.
And when you look at those, I'm glad we don't have to deal with that stuff anymore. It's like, cause it's just like, I have bags and like Ziploc bags of like old mini DV tapes and stuff like that.
Insane.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad things are easier for me just because it's like, oh my God, we can get this step done. Like there's a bunch of transcription services, and I think Adobe Premiere does transcript. We're using that now. It just makes things, it speeds things along. You can get a lot more done in record time than you could before. And then I think, what the hell did we do without the internet? Or like, it's like, how did things get done with faxes and letters and phone calls?
Or even just being able to review footage the same day. Like, oh wait, I could literally go watch it on a monitor 3,000 miles away in New York in like a minute. It's insane.
It's great. Yeah.
So let me ask you a question. Did you ever go to Roxton while you were at FDU?
I know of Roxton, but I don't think I ever went.
Yeah, it's funny. Roxton is one of those things where like people who have gone said it was amazing. I never went either, and I wish that I did. I was just so heavily involved in all my different classes and film projects, and I was doing a lot of creative writing and screenwriting as well, and just didn't have a chance to go. So let me ask you a couple other questions here. I could talk for hours here. So you said you were involved in the theater program a little bit. Like you did theater, like what kind of performances did you do? Did you like behind the scenes? Were you on the stage? What were you doing?
I did all of it. I was in Baby with the Bathwater. That was a play that was done. I did the plays. I was in Ain't Misbehavin'. I was like the only white person cast in this all black cast and everything, but it was singing. And I'm not the best singer, but I was like, I'll do it. Let's try it. When we did talent show. So I think one year I was the president of the theater club. And so we would have like, I think it was called like number 5 in a series, number 6 in a series. And it was like this talent show. And I'm a songwriter as well. So I was like writing songs and singing them with a good friend of mine, a student named Krista. So I would do magic, songwriting, and I would help also build sets and strike them. So I did a little bit of everything. I liked the being in on stage, not as much as other people. And I realized there are people that are like stars, you know, they have so much talent. And I was just never that guy. And I'm like, well, I want to fit in somewhere. So I put on all the hats and did everything to see what I liked. And it you know, it turns out that when I was in front of on the stage, I liked doing magic. That was, you know, and also I produced a string of magic videos, which I worked with Murphy Magic, which is like a major distributor of magic tricks to magicians. They're huge. And so what I did was I got 6 magicians who I met primarily at the Magic Castle, who were not as known as some famous magicians. And I filmed full shows, and then took them. The audience would go home, and then I would bring them backstage, and they would divulge how they did all their magic tricks, and then I would interview them, because a magician who has established themselves as a certain personality and the magic that they do has a lot to teach new people, new magicians, about like, why am I doing a card trick and then a trick with these, you know, these little walnuts and then a trick with some string? Like, it all feels so very arbitrary. But when you see a really good magician put all these arbitrary moments together and string them together with a storyline and all of that. So I did six of those, and I felt like this was meaningful, and we won not awards, but we got in these lists, top 10 lists and stuff. And so I did a lot of that. I'm more happy being behind the camera and seeing a vision and bringing people into that vision to realize it. That's what I have found what my strength is.
Nice. That's cool. So for you, as wearing many different hats in the film world, right? When it comes to like the producing side of things with documentaries versus doing a feature narrative like Silent Night, Deadly Night, what is the difference for you in the process of making those kind of movies?
Well, documentaries find their legs during the editing, because you discover things you didn't know. So when you're asking people questions about something, they know things you don't know, which is really kind of why you're asking them. So documentaries usually are more discovered after you've interviewed everybody, sort of like while you're interviewing them and then editing. Whereas screenplays are mapped out and broken down in big detail, you know, before you shoot anything. Now, things change on set when you're shooting a movie, but those are the two major differences. Is there's this fabricated, I mean, all movies are fake. And I say that to people when they don't like horror movies. Like, my stepmother was like, why do you like seeing people dying and their heads getting cut off and stuff? I'm like, we all know they yell cut and everybody laughs. Like, I don't think of it that way. It's more like when I see special effects, like practical special effects of people's arms, or like, you know, and like Jaws is biting you and stuff. You know, I'm like, that's art, man. Like, that to me, it's beautiful. Like, they actually did that and it looks so real.
Movie magic, you know, it is. It's amazing.
That's why everybody's doing it, because it's, you know, Quint got eaten by a shark. That's why, because it's freaking amazing.
Exactly.
But yeah, so it's all, you know, fake. But documentaries are not. You're trying to get to the truth. You're trying to also be objective. A lot of people think that documentaries don't have a point of view, but they do. A lot of documentaries are really trying to say something. And so, but, you know, for me, like, if I'm interviewing 80 people for the Friday the 13th franchise, say, which we interviewed 80 something people in 10 days. Think about that. It was insane. Every hour on the hour, there was another person from a Friday the 13th movie coming into our studio. And I was like, I'm a huge Friday fan. And I was like, I can't believe what I'm seeing. It was the weirdest thing. It was like the whole movie's coming to life in one place. It was amazing. But you ask them questions about their time on set and things that happened, good things, bad things, and you're just sort of finding things out. you have a narrative, like with documentary, you want to start off with your treatment and know what you want to say, but then you go and interview everyone, and there's often a lot of things that come out that you don't know, good and bad, that make it in the documentary and replace things. That's
And
great.
it weaves a different narrative sometimes. It weaves a totally different narrative than what you originally thought.
Yeah.
Because that's
When we did our Unknown Dimension documentary, which was on the Paranormal Activity movies, the people who made the first movie, it was just 3 people. It was Oren and then Katie and Mika, who were the actors. And now if you remember the movie, they're just in a house and they're recording supernatural goings on while they're sleeping. And so it justified the camera usage, and it was a fantastic movie, and it broke record. It just was like this crazy, insane thing. Then they did 2 and then 3. By the time they got to 3, they were spending millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars on shooting. They would show up and say to the cast, all the stuff we did yesterday, we're going to can. Today, we're going to do this, because it was all improv, and they were finding, but I was like, that's the opposite of what Oren did, which was know the story he wanted to tell, find the actors that were believable and had chemistry, and tell that story. But when a studio got involved, they could just throw money out the window and not care.
Yeah.
And
do you
that was
think
fascinating to me.
Do you think the paranormal activity movies were kind of? I feel like a lot of that genre was all sparked from Blair Witch because
Absolutely
of that kind of like found footage style storytelling. Because I mean, there had been found footage movies before that, but that really kind of broke the mold and was like, wow, this is like a thing now. And I find that so interesting because I do think that there is an additional scariness to it when it feels like it's real, as opposed to seeing it through the lens
and
of
I still
a
think it's got
cinematographer.
endless potential. A lot of people like Jason Blum, who owns Blumhouse, who produced Paranormal Activity. That movie made Blumhouse. That was like very much in like New Line, like Nightmare on Elm Street made New Line, but for Nightmare there'd be no New Line. And he I don't know 6-7 years ago said found footage is dead and blah blah blah, but I still think it still has I just produced a found footage movie in New Jersey that's now in festivals, and it's winning some festivals for Best Picture, and it's called Don't Look in the Dark. And it was a very unique approach to a found footage movie, never been done before. And the director, my friend Sam, brought me on to produce it, and it's great. It's doing something that in found footage that's never been done before. There's still a lot you can do in the genre. Oren himself, who made Paranormal Activity, directly credits Blair Witch for he said, if that guy can do it and I love what he did, I've got ideas, I can do it too. But for Blair Witch, there probably wouldn't have been a Paranormal Activity.
Yeah. Speaking of New Jersey, what's your thoughts about all the studios being built in Jersey between Netflix and Paramount?
Fantastic. I'm trying to get something made there right now. The tax breaks are good. I think it's fantastic.
Do you find that because of all these other states are building studios and giving all these big tax credits, it's making it harder to make movies in Hollywood, or is it kind of
Well, Hollywood. I mean, I've been here 20 years. It's changed drastically in many ways, and so I don't know if it needed a change, but we make it very hard here to shoot something.
Which seems so crazy. It's like that's what basically built the whole city was Hollywood.
When you live here, like for instance, if you're driving and you want to go grocery shopping, and then you drive, like there's a street here me where frequently they shut the street down. You're like, oh, they're shooting something, damn it, and you may have to go around it, and you're like, but in like Iowa or Minnesota, that's exciting. They're shooting a movie. Everybody comes out, and I think people here are just jaded. The industry is so difficult. It's weird. There's a bad homeless problem here, and you see these giant studios that and then right in front of the studios are homeless people, and you start to see its excessiveness. Now, I've never made millions of dollars.
The money scale is the problem. It's like there's so few that are way up here, and there's so many people that are just scraping by or less, and that's where I think that the dichotomy.
And so you see the incongruous kind of nature of it, and and it's sad. It's sad. for me, I've never been in either group. And I think most of the people that I know are, as film, like we're not doing it for the money. You have some good years, you have some bad years. It just depends on what you're doing. You get smarter as you go. Like I have a friend who refinanced her house to pull out money to make a movie. And she's like, this is the movie. And it was a good movie. It was a horror movie, and it was like a satire horror movie, which is very in vogue now. Like Scary Movie 6 is coming out, and but that genre was kind of dead. And she made the movie years ago, probably 10 years ago. And, she still hasn't paid it off. And there's a lot of people like that out here that they're just hoping their little movie is going to be the next big thing. So yeah, it's a risk taking kind of business. And now, like, the dream of like coming to Hollywood and being a big star is not what it was back then, but you can still do it. Obviously, that's where stars are made and everything. But yeah, I am very excited by seeing other studios being built in other states. We shot Silent Night, Deadly Night in Canada. And it was like, we wanted to shoot it here. We wanted to shoot it in Montana. The snow looked great in Montana, but we had to go to Winnipeg for the tax breaks. Our budget almost doubled because of the tax credits. So, but no, I'm very excited. What about you?
I am too. My students always ask me, like, how do we get our foot in the door in these studios? And I don't have a good answer for them yet. It's like, it's the film industry isn't like the accounting industry where you send your resume to somebody and get an interview. It's a who sort of industry, and it's just trying to get yourself on backstage and making all these connections and quote unquote knocking on doors, if you will, to meet people. And I'm excited because I think there's going to be such a huge opportunity to make really cool content again, because there's been I would say, like, a staleness to it since COVID and the writer's strike and everything. And I think now with all these new studios coming, there's this hopeful resurgence, and hopefully they can figure out how to deal with the AI of it all as well. And manage that. So who knows?
Well, my advice to the students that are asking you, how do I get a job, is I would go there and knock on the door and say, listen, I live here. You're going to want to work with me. I would love to work with you. And I say that because I know 3 people come to mind. The guy that I'm working with on the Wes Craven documentary sent Wes a letter and said, I would love to work for you. And Wes called him and said, let's meet. And I don't even think his name's Jeff. I don't even think Jeff lived here. And he came in here, had lunch with him, and he said, I'll hire you. There's a guy who worked at New Line. Oh my gosh, I'm trying to remember his name. He did the same thing. He emailed who owned New Line? It was Bob Shea. And he said, I love your movies. I'd like to work for you. And he hired him. And there's another person I'm thinking of. And so, like, I would just email and say, how do I get a job working for me? I live here. That's what I would do.
Basically, what you're saying is be bold and don't be afraid to take a risk and put yourself out there, kind of thing. That's what it sounds like. I have one of my very, very best friends who I went to FDU with, who's a DP out in LA. Amazing cinematographer. He does a lot of stuff with Discovery Channel, would go all over the country filming all those like haunted house shows and everything, like those like investigative shows. I have to connect you with him. You would love him. He is the best guy in the world. If you ever need a DP to shoot docs, he's an awesome guy. His name is Rob Toad.
Contact me. This is how you produce. That's all it, like, if like right now I'm like, if I need a DP, I have people that I'm thinking of, but you end up like I also own a board game company, which I started a couple years ago. We're called Beyond Killer Games. We've done horror themed board games. So we did a Ghostface game. We did a Halloween 2 game. We did a My Bloody Valentine, Silent Night, Deadly Night, the game. And horror fans don't have games for their movies. And so it was a great idea. It's a lot of work, but it's so fun. We did a trailer for Halloween 2, the game. And so it takes place in a hospital. there's a couple of people in a hospital room, and Michael shows up and he starts killing people, and we show the game in it and everything. And I needed a DP. I was like, the people that I know are either busy or they're not right for this or blah, blah, blah. And so, but I put the feeler out there, and I ended up with this team of people that I didn't know. They were all friends with each other. One was the DP. When they brought in fog machines, it just, once you find and DPs tend to know a lot of other crew members.
And they like bringing with the people with them that they work with all the time, because they know they can just, there's like a unspoken language, like they just know what to do with each other, kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Cool.
And I met these guys for one day, and they, we shot it in one day. It was a 7-minute trailer, and it came out great. You should look it up on YouTube. It's the Halloween 2 game trailer. And cool. Basically the people in the movie and people in the scene basically become part of the game. They're in a live game, and Michael is like in their room, and he's coming chasing at them. Right. And you realize that, they're in metaphysically, like in this board game. It was really our director.
You Jumanji'd them.
And so it was just fantastic. But yeah, it was great. And you sense that too. I worked with a DP years ago to create a short for Danielle Harris, who starred in a couple of the Halloween movies. And this was her first short, and we wanted to direct something together. And this guy, his name is Pete, knew all these other guys. And you're right, they speak the same language. It's difficult when you interview. You want the team to feel like, oh, hey, we're ready to do this. You don't want everyone feeling disconnected. You want to avoid that if you can. But yeah, you're totally right. That's typically what happens. So
that's cool. Dude, this is such a cool conversation. I could talk to you for hours. I feel like I've known you forever, and that's really, really awesome. So I do a bunch of podcasts. So I teach as an adjunct. I do a bunch of I host a podcast called So You Want to Be a Geek, and did a couple episodes on D&D back in December, and like the world of like the board game, or like the narrative storytelling game, is so huge now. It's I feel like it's bigger than it was in the 80s. It's booming, and people just want to kind of quote unquote get offline and do these like interactive games together, which is such a cool thing. So
I think we all Magic, for instance. If you ever come out to LA, I'll take you to the Magic Castle. People have their phones put away.
I'm down.
They're not taking selfies. You can't. They don't let you. They're like, no photos. And it is the nicest, most relaxing thing to not be somewhere in a room where everyone's like this on their phones. They're dressed up and they're watching magic take place right before. It is the most magical thing. I go every week now, and we all yearn for that. We all want to put their phones down, but unfortunately, you were so addicted to them.
We're trained now. We're trained to like grab our phone every couple of minutes.
Totally. I work with a really great game designer who did a couple of our games. He did Black Christmas. He did our Madman game, our Basket Case game. And so I was designing a charades game for an organization. And I said in the instructions, you can just keep, the total of your score on your phone. And this very experienced game designer said, take that out of the instructions. And I said, why? And he goes, the moment the phones come out, the game ends. He's like, you want to send them a pad and a pencil in the game box. He's like, tell people to put their phones away. And that was great advice. So any chance you can get to break away from all this noise and these distractions and have a real connection with someone is what we used to do. It's healthy.
Yeah. It's healthy. It is healthy. I planned a bowling night with all the parents of my kids from my kids' school. We're all going up bowling tomorrow night just so we can get out of the house and be like, just as adults and just hanging out. And everyone's like, we're going to go bowling and drink? This is going to be great. Yeah. Like, cool, whatever.
I mean, we get to like interact with each other.
Yeah. God forbid,
Jesus. I know, I know that like for like introverts, that's a nightmare. Like if you're a really introverted person, you just don't want to talk to anybody, fine. But most people have like a need to connect,
Yeah.
And again, I think that's why I found my place in art was like, I didn't really connect unless I was creating something or performing something or writing something, and so I could never be an accountant. Like that would be my nightmare job, would be like, I'm going to sit here with spreadsheets all day. But if that's your thing and you love to do that, but I think artists, they need to, and also artists are creators in different ways. Like you may just paint, but typically artists see things like cooking. I love to cook. Everything is, you approach it as a creating something. There's nothing worse than feeling dead inside and not creating something every day, So yeah, I'm just happy to be doing what I'm doing in the genre that I love. Like I don't want to do a documentary on, something I'm not interested in. Like I love horror
Nature.
movies. Right. I mean, I could do it, but I wouldn't enjoy it. That's the thing about being a creator, is you can create the things you want to create, that you have passion about. I learned that lesson a long time ago. I worked with an editor once on the Halloween documentary, and I would go to this place in Hollywood to edit it every night. So I had a full-time job for a while, and then I worked till 6 to 3. And then I would drive into Hollywood and sit with this editor to edit the Halloween documentary. And he turned to me once and he was like, "Is this some stupid fan film? What is this?" And he was so dismissive of it. And I said, "No, the producers of the Halloween movies are funding this, and it's a real deep dive into the success of these movies, their influence of, with Halloween, you wouldn't have Friday the 13th and Scream and Nightmare. You wouldn't have any of that stuff." And he suddenly got like real interested, but I realized he doesn't have passion, and he didn't last. We brought in an editor that was very passionate. So I use that in today. I try to find my team of people that are truly have a passion for what we're making. It makes all the difference. So
what advice do you have for aspiring filmmakers and creative artists and writers and stuff like that like they should take into them when they're looking to pursue their career like you did? What would you say to them?
Well, I would say a few things. One is take any gig you can get for free, because there's, as a producer, I hate saying to someone, "I have no money for you." I don't do that anymore, but I used to. And I would say, well, it depends on what you're asking them to do. If they just want to come on set and help, if they want a PA or something, I would start networking. And the way you would do that is just say yes to a few gigs in your first, you're just getting out there, to just get to set and work on something and be a part of something. Because then, and networking is the second thing, is to try to meet as many people as you can. I used to do that all the time, and I would hate networking. I hate networking. But as you get older, you need to do that less. That's what I find. You kind of just, and it's easier now to network. But I would just say start working right away and not have unreasonable expectations about pay and stuff. Like don't come out of the gate saying, "Hey, I want to work on your movie. My rate is $750 a day." Like you can't. So I would get the resume going, and the way that I would do that is to just take a few free gigs. I'm not asking someone to work for 6 months for free, but that's what I would recommend. Just start working right away.
Cool. Do you have any other like fond memories of your time at FDU? Something that stands out to you?
I don't think there's any specific memory that I have. The stuff I said to you about Harvey is probably what I think about. I remember Mark. We had a really tight group of friends. I remember we used to use the Ouija board at night. It was more the socializing and the fun of and I lived on campus, so I didn't live with my dad. I actually lived there for 4 years. That was the excitement for me.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And the plays and all that stuff.
Where can people find your board games and stuff like that? Where can they pick these up?
Yes, you can go to beyondkiller.com. We're Beyond Killer Games. So or beyondkillergames.com or beyondkiller.com, you'll get there. That's where you can find me. My website for my production stuff is masimedia.net, not .com. It's masimedia.net. That's where you can find me.
And where is Don't Look in the Dark showing at festivals now?
So it premiered in New Jersey, the New Jersey Film Festival.
Oh, cool.
It was the premiere. It went over very well. I wasn't able to go, but our director went with the main actors in it. We were chosen as best feature in the Birmingham Horror Film Festival in England. It's going to a festival in San Francisco this month. UDD, which is the, oh my God, it is the found footage convention. It's the found footage festival. They just do found footage movies. It just, I think it's screening there this month in March, which was a big one for our director. Yeah, you can at least see the trailer online. You can't get the movie. I think one of the festivals offered a 24-hour window where you could actually watch it. You can't watch it right now, but you can at least see the trailer. Yeah, and it's great. It's called Don't Look in the Dark.
There's an awesome festival you should check out. It's the Brooklyn Horror Film Festival, and they just all do horror. And it's like they showcase all over Brooklyn. They have theaters in BAM and all different places, and it's a really, really popular festival to check out for horror movies, and it gets
Thank you.
a lot of good traction.
I just wrote it down. Our director is Sam Freeman, and he was using Film Highway. I think that's
Film Freeway.
Film Freeway, yes. Okay. I have never tried to get a film in a festival before. So this is like, as a producer, like, this is brand new for me. And Sam is all over it. And so I'm sure he's heard of them. If not, then I'll tell him. But
it's a popular one. I'm not a huge horror guy, and I've been to it because I have friends that have done it, and it's a really good festival.
All right, really, I'm gonna look them up right when we hang up. And, yeah.
Well, Anthony, this was incredible. Like I said, I could talk to you for hours. I feel like you, me, and Mark should get together sometime and just have dinner and hang out and we'd have a blast.
Absolutely, so, I am down. I am down.
Thank you again for being a part of the podcast. This was awesome. So
thank you.
Final
Great
thoughts?
Talking to you. Just keep creating, man. I mean, your life is short. I have one thing. I just very quickly, when I moved to San Diego, it took me 5 years to actually move to LA. San Diego is gorgeous. Have you ever been?
Yes. Yeah. Once. Yeah.
It's the perfect weather. There's beaches. People like are casually dressed all the time. My problem with living there was I can't differentiate the years from each other. It feels like a blur to me.
It's the same time of year all year round. Right. You don't know where you are.
Christmas, Easter, they both look the same. Everyone's like barbecuing on the weekends, and it's like but my problem with it was a blur. Like I literally half a decade, I'm like, I don't even remember what we did there. So if you're a creator, go to a place where they can use your talents and you'll be able to work on things and then tell the years apart. That's what I love about this business. Like a lot of people don't like the instability or the arbitrary nature of it. So I like not knowing what my next project is that's going to, excite me. I like that. But if you're a 9-to-5er and you need to, predict your salary and, all that stuff, it's not the business for you. But if you're an artist, put yourself in a creative area where there are other creators and you'll flourish. That's what I would say as general advice.
I couldn't end it on a better note than that. Listen, everybody, this was an amazing interview. Thank you again, Anthony, for being on the podcast. And remember, folks, no matter where you are, you can always come home again. We'll see you next time on Coming Home. Bye for now.